Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Voker On Air, Voices of the Game. I am your host, Yohn Voker. It is great to have you here. And today we got a very special guest here on our podcast. So, since he was 17 years old, he has been calling over 200 games across five different networks and eight different sports for high school, college, and professional level sports, especially on the lower side. And he is a broadcaster for the Alexandria Aces, the Sports Fan Base Network, and Checker Bay College, and so much more to choose from here. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to welcome in our Voice of the Game guest here today, Riley McNurlan. How are you, Riley? Great to see you here.
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. So, I do want to ask you this one question. 17 years old, like what was going through your mind that you want to become a sports broadcaster these days?
Yeah, so funny enough, I started actually when I was almost 16. I started when I was 15 and about 10 months. And I've always loved sports. And actually, I was at a sporting event, a high school football game, and I was like, wow, I would love to be in the booth, like broadcasting this game because I saw a network there. I reached out to them and they said I'm too young and I don't have any experience. So that kind of fired me up, I guess you could say. And then I reached out to some other networks, and I got in touch with the person from the NFHS network, and then I got them in touch with my athletic director, and then the rest is history.
So like I said, you have been calling eight different sports with five different networks. In terms of, how the process, like working with one network, working with, other network, with colleges and, like sports networks and stuff. What can you really want to like benefit, not only as a sports broadcaster, but hopefully to like, raise up the ranks as you go down the stretch?
Yeah, well, I mean, you meet so many amazing people. That's the great thing about it. I've met so many great people this far in my career. I mean, of course, you meet people that are kind of like, you're like, all right, this person I'll probably stay away from. But overall, just about everybody I've met has been really supportive. And of course, they sometimes know people. So people call it networking. I don't kind of like that word. I like making actual personal connections because I feel like that goes further in the long run to have a personal connection with somebody. So I feel like being able to work with different teams, different players, different coaches, working with producers, camera guys, having a color guy. I feel like just being surrounded with other people that want to do what you kind of want to do and are interested in broadcasting, it makes it all the difference.
Absolutely. That's awesome. I mean, the way you have been working hard as of this point really makes it really better to know how good that you are trying to, like work your way and try to be the best broadcaster that you can really be here. So I did mention, like your dream begins, 15 years old, getting, the opportunities, connecting with everyone. But I wanted to know what was your first broadcast and what was going through the behind the scenes through your first broadcast.
Yeah, I remember it was January the 27th. I think it was 2025, and it was my first high school game, and it was a doubleheader. My high school, St. Peter and Paul, was playing. I think it was Salisbury Christian, and women's basketball was first, and men's basketball second. And I remember the game very vividly, coming up to it because I was not used to the prep and stuff like that. So I instead of having a spotting board and stuff like that, I had all these note cards with like stats for like each player and like things to talk about for each player, which was very unprofessional looking back. But I've seen other broadcasters are kind of like, all right, some of them have like this stuff, and this is how they keep stats and stuff like that. I guess I used note cards for my first time, and I was pretty, I want to say, anxious to just get it started, because of course that was my first time ever being on air. So I would say it was a lot of being anxious in the moment, kind of excited, but also nervous because like this is the real deal. People are going to hear me. It's not like a pretend kind of thing. So just once we got started and once I got in a role, of course that broadcast was horrible, and I listened back to it once and I'll never listen to it again because it just it's just like nails on a chalkboard basically.
Oh,
But of course, you know you have to have that to get better. So it was certainly an experience, and I'm truly grateful for that experience and for my athletic director taking a chance on me. But yeah, it was definitely an interesting broadcast that I will not be listening to again.
absolutely. You just gotta take it at least one broadcast at a time. And when I was calling my first broadcast, it was a soccer game. It was like a lower tiered soccer game. And I had like spotting boards, but I was it was tough for me to like trying to make sure like what's going on in the field. But as I like get better and better every step of the way, every game that I could like call, trying to make sure what are some of the things that I can improve, what are some of the things that have been working on, and what are some of the things in between, trying to like make sure that everything gets better for like every broadcast there. But like you mentioned, like it's tough to like, call your first broadcast, but at the same time, what can be the learning process for you? And the way is that, you always gotta take matters into your own hands. You gotta take it one step at a time. If you want to like, like watch, how you perform, like calling a game, just write down a few notes, make sure that everything goes well for you. And hopefully, by the time you get to the next game, then you can, probably get better and better every step of the way. So that's one of the things that I definitely want to make sure as well. So the next question that I wanted to ask you is that, what's the biggest early challenge for you as a sports broadcaster? I mean, you call 8 different sports, 5 different networks. What's the biggest early challenge for you?
I mean, I think the biggest early challenge for me was finding opportunities because again, no one's going to hire you with not much experience or little experience or no experience at all. So getting my first opportunity, which was at my high school, because I had to email people at the NFHS network and then I had to connect them with my athletic director and all that. And once I was able to do that, really that fall of 2025 was when I kind of ramped things up. I reached out to some other high schools to do football, and then once you kind of start building a bit, like, all right, you have the experience, you have some kind of tapes, and you have kind of some reels that people see, all right, this kid's not bad. We can take a shot on him. Once you start kind of building that and you send that off, and of course, you're going to have a lot of no's. I mean, the amount of no's I've had compared to yeses is absurd, but that's just how it is in this business. So just finding the opportunities at first was definitely a big struggle. I mean, of course, it still is because I'm 17, so it's definitely still hard to work your way up. But just really getting my foot in the door, basically, and getting myself into the industry, and you know, like you said, with the prep work, getting better at doing that. Of course, when I look back at my first, like I said, the note cards compared to my spotting boards now, it's like, holy cow, that was a horrible time for me. But it's just experience is so important. I feel like for anybody really in any industry, but especially this one, to have kind of stuff on your resume that all right, you've done this, you know how to do this, you have some experience of doing this type of sport or this type of sport, and that's just kind of the big thing for me is just continue to kind of tack on little things, whatever it may be, whatever sport it may be, and just continue to kind of build and build and build on the experience level. So then hopefully the higher up I go, the better it looks.
Yeah, and that's the better thing. You always want to get opportunities. You want to make sure you like, contact so many people, building up your resume and just like create as much demo reels as you can get. Like every piece that you can get, you just gotta put it out there, and you gotta show everybody that it could really matters. There's the most there. So I really like how things can really work on here for sure, and I love to have a guy has to take opportunities. You gotta take it elsewhere. So
Exactly.
all all right. So so you mentioned about the like the note cards and everything, and hopefully the evolution involves in your prep work. But I want to talk about, you know, what's the game day preparation for you is like, and what is also the research process that you ever done for, like, it doesn't matter like what sport you're going, but talk about the game day preparation and the research process.
Yeah, I feel like it definitely differs between sport and level because again, on the high school level, really for all sports on the high school level, excuse me, are all kind of it's hard to really find statistics. Doing it from my school is a bit easier just because I can talk to coaches and players because they're in the same building, so that makes it a lot easier. And of course, high school football, they do keep a lot of stats on Max Preps, which is like my best friend in the fall. But when you come to like the JUCO level, then it gets a little easier. I try to take at least 3 days to officially finish my spotting board if it's a basketball game, just getting stats down, storylines. My three top stats, I'm trying to remember, I think it was points per game, um, let's see, shooting percentage for free throws and 3 pointers. And I could not tell you the other one, but just kind of getting those really big stats for all the players and then kind of some interesting stats like, all right, this guy leads the team in blocks, this, that, But when you are like a voice of a team, I feel like it's a lot easier because you're with the team for a whole season compared to being put on for a game where you don't know two teams as well as you would like. So that's with SFBN. When I did a couple pro games for them, you had to really crack down and do a lot of research. But thankfully, because it's low pro basketball, they have it out there. But that definitely took about a week to prep for that game with calling the coaches, making sure the stats are correct because it's a bigger audience. But I would say for a high school game, it really only takes a day or two just because there's so many games in a week because of all the sports I cover. But the way you work it up with the JUCO and college level and then like the low pro level, it definitely the work gets a lot more. And then of course this summer when I was in Alexandria, I feel like every day the stats change because it's baseball. They play basically every day. So every morning you have to get up and then check the website, put all the stats in. Once you get the lineups, you put the batting average, all that stuff in for each player, and then you go. So I feel like it definitely differs which sport you're doing. But I would say on average, I take about 2.5 to 3 days for each sport. But again, like I said, it just depends on which sport and what level.
Wow, so that's a lot of work process that you ever made there.
It's fun
I,
though. It's fun though.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fun because like when you're about to call a game, you gotta make sure you gotta have like as much information as possible for like each player, especially the stats, because you never know what's gonna bring on, especially when you're about to like start off with, the broadcast. And that's another thing that I wanted to talk about is the philosophy of storytelling. Like if you could like bring out, like one thing about, like a player and like, like the stats that you really pulled out, how many games that they've really done there. What's the philosophy when it comes to storytelling and broadcasting?
I mean, for me, you kind of always have to remember that people are watching the game for them, so you can't overuse the stats. You kind of got to put it in when it matters. If someone's shooting free throws at the free throw line, you can see like, I don't know, like Larson's shooting 72% at the free throw line this season as he misses the first or something like that. You don't want to just overwhelm the viewer with statistics. I think I've learned that a lot more, especially at the beginning of my career. I would try to use all the stats that I have on my boards just because you don't want them to go to waste. But as I've talked to more people, as I've gotten more experience down the line, I've learned that it's okay to use only half of the statistics in a broadcast. You don't have to use it all. That doesn't mean you had a bad broadcast if you only used half of the statistics. So I feel like knowing what stats do you use at the right time is extremely important because again, you're supposed to be telling what is happening right now as a play-by-play guy, but also trying to fit in storylines when the time's right, and then fit in statistics the time's right. So you just kind of got to remember when to use it and when the right time is to use it. So I think that's kind of been my philosophy. Of course, I've gotten better at that as of recently in the last half year to a year, compared to when I started. When, like I said, I overwhelmed everybody with statistics. I feel like you just kind of got to let the game go. You kind of get into a flow of the game. I think that's extremely important.
Yeah, that's the thing, for me, when it comes to like storytelling and the philosophies, I try to make sure that everything definitely goes my way, especially when I'm calling, like soccer. Trying to make sure what team has what it is at stake here. And so, like, when I think of, like storytelling, I got to make sure that every team got to make sure every player knows what's at stake here. And you just got to bring it in. And I don't have to like use it like all the time. I could like use it like, like every time that I could use it in a broadcast. So that's the philosophy for me when it comes to storytelling. And I wanted to like bring it there. And I've been, definitely working on it, especially within like the last couple of years in my broadcasting career, but it definitely works out, when it comes to broadcasting and storytelling. Gotta love how you can like bring it in and no matter what happens.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, with like a sport like soccer, I don't say there's a lot less happening, but there's a lot more time to mention things like storylines, statistics, unlike a sport like basketball where they're going back and forth almost the whole game. So again, like I said, it just depends on the sport and what the level is.
All right. So so especially when you're calling a game, there are two things that comes into mind, and that is calling the big moments and handling the mistakes. The first one is, how do you handle calling the big moments, and how can you handle the mistakes that you have, like, facing criticism and all that?
So the big moments, I absolutely love the big moments because I'm someone that absolutely loves and can feel the adrenaline in like a big game, especially when there's a good crowd. You can kind of feel the energy, whether it's outside or indoor, depending on what sport. But you can't script what to say in a big moment. You can have a thought of like what to say. And, like you could try and add a statistic in there, like for the fourth time in as many years, whoever or whomever is, champions of whatever conference. But you can feel when a big moment is kind of coming. Like if it's a certain at bat and the eighth or ninth inning, you kind of can feel, all right, the momentum has shifted. If this guy gets a base hit, we're going to be tied. So being able to know what's going on, not to get overly excited where people understand what you're saying, but at the same time, you want to be interesting. You don't want to have a boring, you know, the Aces win the ball game. Like you want to have something exciting for those moments because it is a big moment. But you also don't want to just again talk the whole time. The bigger the broadcast is, what there's more fans at it. You kind of want to let the fans take over so the people listening know how big of a moment it is. So again, it's just knowing what to say at the right time and then knowing what not to say. I think both of those are extremely, extremely important when it comes to a big moment. And then, taking mistakes, that's definitely something like every broadcaster has to kind of just swallow the mistakes, basically, like take a punch every once in a while. I mean, certainly at the beginning of my career, um, there were times where I was like, wow, that was really good. And now I'm listening back, I'm like, that was really not good. Why did I say that then? Why did I say that? Like, why was that the right moment to say that? Why was I speaking here? Am I talking too much? Why was there 30 seconds of dead air time? So, kind of being able to take the mistakes that you made and being like, all right, we need to fix this, we need to fix that. And then taking what you've learned and implementing it into the future, I think that's really important. And then working with the color guy, having a good connection with them where you can be like, all right, we need to make sure that this dead air time is filled. We need to make sure that this is kind of a time where you should probably say something, or I should probably kind of give you a better assist on having a stat that you can say. So being able to take the punch and learning from it, I think, is extremely important for anything in life. But certainly in the broadcasting industry, it's definitely important.
Absolutely. Very important to talk about that. And I'm really glad that you put it out there because, like when I like handling mistakes, I just make sure I just like correct it and just move on. And they're, trying to like make note for the viewers who are watching the game because that's definitely one of the most important things to ever do, especially when you're handling the mistakes. And when you're calling the big game, and for me, I wanted to make sure to just lay it out after everything that I said, just lay it out and just going on from there. Yeah. Another thing that I wanted to talk to you about is your career defining moment. Now, you've called over 200 games since you were 17 years old. So I wanted to ask you what is your favorite broadcast and what is your biggest event you ever had, especially throughout the years that you have been dealing in sports broadcasting?
I mean, I'm trying to think. I mean, there's been so many amazing games and things that have meant so much to me. I feel like I'm definitely excited for games that are upcoming. But looking back, I feel like I couldn't name one that was my favorite. I mean, of course, calling low pro basketball was definitely really fun. To work with the producer and other camera guys, I feel like that was awesome. That was definitely one of my favorites. But there's some really good games where I think back on. All the way back to last fall, there was a game, and someone at our school tragically passed away. I think the day before, or maybe that morning, and we were tied 1-1 with about 7 minutes to go, and our soccer team was already like 3 or 4-0 to start the season. It was the best start to a season, and we were tied 1-1, and one of our players shot this ball probably, I would say, 40 yards out from the goal, and it banged off the crossbar, bounced up again, and like trickled in. It was really a magical moment. I was like, is it in? It is, like screaming. I was like, it was just such a like crazy moment with everything that happened, and like they were trying to see if we should cancel the game, but they ended up playing. It was just such a surreal moment with everything that happened for us to score that goal and for us to win the way we did, especially because it was my school. I think that was definitely up there for one of my favorite games. Of course, there's been amazing games um, on the court with our basketball team. Um, Calling a NJC AA tournament, I had to do 6 games in the span of 2 days, which was a lot, but all those games were also super fun. But I feel like I could not name one broadcast that really sticks out to me of like this game was the best game of my life. I feel like there's so many to choose from, but just taking each broadcast to the best of my ability, like you said, like trying to lay it out for the crowd. Um, I'm still trying to think if I can find my favorite, but yeah, I don't think I can name a favorite. I think it would be a big, maybe 4 or 5 way tie.
Wow, that's awesome. And just to mention, 6 games in 2 days.
That was a
Like,
lot.
wow, you really pulling out the grind
Yeah,
work here.
I got to miss a day of school for that, so I was happy.
Oh,
I
I
was happy
see.
about that.
I hope you got the excuse note. So
I did, thankfully, thankfully.
well, I'm really glad that you really put out the work here as
Yeah.
well. And hopefully we're getting close to the end of this interview, but I cannot let you go without asking a few more questions. So I'm gonna give you some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
So basically is some of the things that I will ask you about and you just fire it away.
Okay.
So the first one is favorite sport to call.
Oh God. Oh shoot. I would say football.
Okay. Your dream event.
My dream event. I would like to call the Super Bowl. Definitely.
Oh, oh, that's awesome. Gotta love
Yeah.
the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Favorite venue.
That I've called in or just any venue of all time.
I mean anything, anything.
I would say the favorite venue would be Camden Yards where the Orioles play. I think that's the best ballpark in baseball. Of course, I've not called a game there. Um, but I would say Oriole Park.
Oh yeah, I love Oriole Park. I think that's one of the best unique ballparks in America.
Oh,
And
definitely.
yeah, definitely. Your favorite broadcaster.
My favorite broadcaster, Kevin Harlan.
Oh god. Me too. I love Kevin
Yeah,
Harlan. He's like one of my favorite broadcasters to call. I mean, one of my favorite broadcasters. And oh man, I will hope to see him one day. No
yeah.
doubt about it. All right. Coffee or energy drink?
I would say neither actually. I've never liked coffee. Maybe that's just because I'm 17 and I'm not a big coffee drinker. But I've tried multiple, iced coffees. Like that's not it. Black coffee, definitely not. I've tried the creamer. I've tried the sugar. I can't do that. Then energy drinks, like Elias and stuff like that. I definitely not. No, I will not drink one of those.
I don't blame you. I don't
Yeah,
blame you. All right. And finally, your biggest pet peeve.
my biggest pet peeve in like anything or in the broadcasting scheme.
Like anything will help you.
Um, People who I hate to say this, like people who eat really loudly, like either chew or drink really loud. Like it's just an annoyance to me, especially if I'm near them. Like just if you're like a kid, it's whatever. But like if you're 12 or older, I think you should kind of have those
Like
manners.
like if you're gonna do that, at least close your mouth
Yeah, I
and
can't.
chew.
People who slurp
Yeah.
drinks and chew with their mouth open. I'm also kind of a little bit of a germaphobe, so I'm not big on that.
Oh, that's tough, man. Especially for me, when I like it, I just do it with my mouth closed
Oh yeah,
so that anyone don't want to let me, so like I don't have to like make a sound for sure.
yeah. Oh god, yeah. That's definitely one of my things. I hate it.
All right. Before we wrap up, just to have some advice for the next generation, what is the one piece of advice for, anyone who want to be involved in sports broadcasting?
Get experience as early as you can. Start as early as you can. Like I said, I started when I was 15. So I mean, the quicker you start, and the more you jump ahead, the more you'll be ahead. So that's kind of my theme thus far. Is I've tried to do as much as I possibly can, so that I always kind of stay ahead, and I'm always working myself kind of upward trajectory instead of staying at a median or taking a step down. So just get as much experience as you can, and do as much as you can now, no matter how old you are.
Yeah, it's never too late when you have to like make sure you network, make sure everything gets in order, create your demo reels, everything. I'm currently working on like creating my soccer demo reel because I've been
Yeah.
calling like USL League Two games.
Oh yeah.
So that really works very well here. So, oh,
Yeah, and
but it's
definitely.
never too late.
Yeah, definitely. And also be kind, be outgoing, be somebody that people want to work with. I think that's also important.
Absolutely. So, what's next for you right now? Oh, in terms of, what's going on? Like, what's next for you? What lies ahead?
So my, summer season in Alexandria just ended about a week ago. So I have about 2 weeks off until, high school sports start up again with soccer and football. Then that takes me to kind of the end of October when basketball kind of starts back up again in mid-November, high school and college and stuff. And then we'll do that. And then pro basketball starts in the spring, and then lacrosse, and I play baseball. And then hopefully next summer, I will unfortunately not be in Alexandria. So we're looking at a step up from Alexandria, which has been awesome, but we'll see. So my next step is high school sports again.
Oh yeah, I gotta love high school sports.
Yeah.
All right. Where can we follow you, especially on social media? Where can everybody follow you?
I mean, on Instagram, probably Riley McNurlan underscore PXP. You can drop me a follow there. I post a good amount of stuff on there. My reels are on there. Highlights of certain games are on there. So that's definitely the place. If you want to keep in touch, that's probably the place.
All righty. Well, Riley, thank you so much for being here. And hopefully good luck the rest of the way in your future. I hope you can, like continue doing your work and hopefully get to like, move on to like bigger and better things in the future here. So
Definitely.
thank you
Thank you
for
so
your
much for
time
having
for
me
being
on.
here.
Thank you so much.